This video is sponsored by Knuckles0x, Crimson Manifesto, and Jopi. We resume just at the entrance of Konoha Hospital, as having witnessed the ending of the third round rival battle, Sakura now bears a tactical grasp of Team Uzumaki's situation, a situation that they sure would have missed out on had she followed along with Naruto in his attempt to look cool, and with Lee also forced to miss the other matches, that would have also been a bit disastrous. Hence her gratefulness Kurenai Sensei worked out of her fangirl phase completely, lest they miss out on information like some of the other teams and their combinations, like Team Dosu and Team Zaku, or even Team Gaara's third member. As she tries to get the attention of the receptionist, Sakura finds herself largely ignored, as something urgent appears to have a hold of the staff's attention, with her hearing snippets of the conversation, as a few nurses and orderlies call out to their superiors, asking what they should do. Thankfully, this chaos is soon reined in with an authoritative voice speaking out, demanding attention and drawing all eyes to her. Coldly, the woman asks what's become of this hospital, that they'd employed such shoddy staff, who get so wrapped up with themselves that they ignore potential patients. Instantly, Sakura and the staff recognize this is Lady Tsunade Senju, Asani, and one of the greatest medics to ever practice medicine, and not only this hospital, but possibly the world itself. In a Weasley tone, the staff member in front of her admits the hospital director and doctors have been expecting her visit and simply want to make sure things were in tip-top shape. However, there's a complication, as a local delinquent who's participating in the tuning exams is causing some chaos while trying to practice unmastered healing jutsus on a patient. Hearing this, Sakura goes pale and groans oh no, while Tsunade seems more intrigued than irritated at them now, ordering the obvious med students to show her and telling Sakura to come along, having half incorrectly deduced her as said delinquent teammate. As they travel deeper into the intensive care wing, the dull sounds of commotion become more audible, and soon we find the sight of Naruto taking on and actually pushing past a couple of medic men, attempting to stop him and get him out. However, when they see Tsunade and become distracted, he takes the opportunity to slightly slip past them and into Lee's room. An action the slug princess quietly notes to herself is pretty good instincts for an untrained medic. Following after him and stopping the others, Tsunade watches from the doorway with Sakura as Naruto takes a few deep breaths to calm down before surging visible chakra from his left hand. And again, Tsunade notes something about him, that he's only using one hand, at which point she finally deems it necessary to step in, jacking the bride up by his collar and demanding to know if he thinks medical ninjutsu is a game, scolding more than stating that the mystic palm jutsu cannot be performed correctly with a single hand, calling his technique sloppy at best and an accident waiting to happen at worst. Now, while this Naruto is certainly more disrespectful and irreverent than the one we're used to, he's also a lot keener in terms of battle IQ and sensing a difference in power and skill at a glance, though it's more so a kind of innate sense of danger that feral animals possess than something akin to sensory abilities. Even back when he tried to take on Kakashi Sensei during their bell test, he knew he was outmatched, but this woman feels like she has a similar level of danger to the old man Hokage, if not way more, forcing him to thus bite his tongue and measurably assure her that he is playing around, still having to boast that at least his single-handed form is flawless. Scoffing, the woman repeats the term flawless as if it's poison when she moves her hand up casually and subsequently flicks Naruto through the wall of Lee's hospital room, over the courtyard meant for physical therapy of patients, and into the adjacent woods behind the building, while bellowing flawless her ass. Meanwhile, hearing this all too familiar commotion, a man at a bathhouse stands up, realizing he may in fact be in the wrong place to do what he was asked to come home for. Plus, if that's where the princess was, then of course he'd be attracted there like a bear to honey, all too soon appearing besides the woman courtesy of a body flicker, and further shocking Sakura and the staff, as two legends now occupy one hospital room, because this man is Lord Jiraiya. In greeting, the former teammates share their usual banter, before a feral roar heralds Naruto's return, covered in dirt, twigs, and leaves after having recovered from Tsunade's attack. In his anger, he quickly forgets the gap in power he literally just noted in favor of clobbering her, demanding to know what's wrong with his healing, before he's drop-kicked by a gator sandal, as it's burrowed into his gut and sends him flying once again. This is too much for Sakura and a now awoken Lee, who after seeing their teammate be comedically blown away by Sonic twice, cry out for the boy to give it up, aggravating the bushy-browed boy's wounds in the process. However, giving up is not the dead last demon's vocabulary, with him reappearing a moment later in an even more disheveled state, and claiming next time they do that, he's really gonna get mad, with both Sonic noticing how calmly he manifests malevolent tail beats chakra. Now able to see him a bit more clearly, Jiraiya realizes this is who they're here for, and so attempts to remind Tsunade of the third's request. However, she reveals she's well aware who he is. She just refused to help this brat try to get someone killed with his wild medical ninjutsu. Sick of this, Naruto genuinely demands to know what makes her the expert, and on top of revealing that information, Tsunade also takes the younger blonde to school, pointing out how lots of the places he applied his healing to on Lee are very red and aggravated, even demonstrating how the skin there is easier broken than elsewhere, and explaining this phenomenon due to lots of mid-level medical ninjutsu, like the mystical palm, acting more so like space-time ninjutsu in their functionality, as what they're doing is stimulating the cell growth of the target to speed up their own body's healing process. However, this does take up the building blocks and energy the body would use for other things, and so when done improperly, one can have a rotting effect rather than a healing effect. This revelation seems to stun Naruto, as he can recognize many of the terms Tsunade just used from his scroll on first aid. I mean, after Kakashi Sensei gave it to him and he failed at it so hard, he had to try and cram it a bit, so he wasn't doing the mystic palm incorrectly at first. He was doing it too well, speeding flesh and tissue through its life cycle so quick as to cause calamity. Meaning, this wasn't a special power from his family like Sasuke and Hinata's. This was just further proof of his status as a demon. a weapon. As the fight leaves Naruto while processing this, Tsunade seems to relent, using her own mastered mystic palm to heal Lee the rest of the way, and even sparing a backhanded compliment that she supposes he did well enough to get by as a field medic during war, having seen far too many who couldn't even do this much. This perks Naruto up, and also gets Lee recovered enough to gush over how epic his battle with Naruto was, as well as how excited he is that his dream hasn't been crushed yet, that he can still continue to fight on, and show he's a splendid ninja, with Sakura joining them and playfully admonishing that they will certainly need her brains if this is how they approach everything, especially with Team Gaara as their next opponents, which she stresses she still has all the important intel on. However, in this topic, when bringing up how they are meant to prepare for their next match, the two standing before them have their answer, revealing their identities to Naruto, but keeping that they've been asked to train him by the Hokage personally a secret, telling a small white lie this is a favor to Kakashi. Naruto, however, corrects this to them, reminding the Sannin that he's got a team to worry about right now, and as their leader, they either train as a group or not at all. Learning of how these current exams are working, and that these aren't Naruto's real teammates, the two veterans are at least impressed with how modern yet practical the test has gotten. Still, recognizing that this really is the brat both their teacher and Kakashi wanted them to spend some time with and train, both shinobi are at the least to say surprised at his personality, as it had been conveniently left out of Sarutobi Sensei's letters, with Tsunade only agreeing to give him the time of day more out of pity for his pitiful medical skills, while Jiraiya says he's doing so mostly because Tsunade will be there. But as such, the boys' hangers-on better be also giving it their all, because they plan to prepare them to walk through hell and back. As the month commences, the training lives up to his name, as Lady Tsunade proves the view Naruto had built up of Mega Ninja, just being weak pacifists who purposely avoid scrapes, is objectively incorrect, and more importantly, something the god of healing takes great joy in beating out of through what she calls evasive maneuver practice, and her extremely high-intensity chakra control exercises. Whereas tree and water walking once seemed difficult to him at one point, they now pale in comparison to the drills she and her assistant Shizune could cook up for him, such as doing push-ups with his fingers and toes balanced on Senbone, while controlling his chakra so finely enough to change the surface pressure on the Senbone and avoid them digging painfully into his flesh. Needless to say, over the course of the month, this does happen multiple times, and leaves Naruto in some of the worst pain he's ever experienced, but over the course of the time they're allotted to train, he adapts to the challenge remarkably fast, while the drills Tsunade gives to Sakura, balancing water and leaves on her skin to effectively train the same acute control, are far less intense, as according to his new instructor, Naruto is basically wielding a half-big mystic palm at one hand, and an overcooked chakra scalpel on the other, so refining that ungodly amount of chakra of his is the best way to get both techniques in working order. This makes the younger blonde medic curious about the chakra scalpel and its perfected form, and when asked, Tsunade is happy enough to demonstrate the technique and have Shizune explain its properties, with Sakura taking a keener interest in this than the overall appeal of medic ninjutsu, other than the refinement for chakra control. But a technique like that with direct assassination applications could be just the oomph Kurenai Sensei urged her to seek out to finish off her targets ASAP with her caught in her genjutsu. As for Naruto on this subject, he is uncharacteristically quiet, with it being obvious the cogs are turning in his head. Recognizing this, Tsunade asks what he's thinking of, at which point he opens up, confiding in her his failure on the mission in the Land of Snow, and asking if it's possible that the chakra scalpel could affect non-human or fleshy stuff, since he noticed something when he tried to heal old man Sandai and inadvertently discovered the Calamity Bomb. The chest wound he had tried to heal had begun to rot all the way down to the snow-covered ground beneath him. After a pause, Tsunade confirms this is a possibility if enough raw chakra is poured into the technique, and with some subtlety, reminds him it could always be part of his tenet affecting him. Though learning as she teaches, she also adds the encouragement that it may be possible to overcome even this impediment if he focuses on gaining true mastery over his mind and chakra. In contrast, the training with Jiraiya is far more lighthearted, with him forcing Naruto to practice summoning jutsu while he works on spars and leaps, since that's about all he or Tsunade can offer him. And he can really benefit from some one-on-one training with the Sannin, since Sakura becomes enraptured with learning her own technique, and Naruto is forbidden to actually join these spars, since he's apparently going to be better off saving his energy for the opponent he's attempting to summon. However, he doesn't truly understand the meaning of this stipulation until he finally succeeds in summoning a far larger toe than Jiraiya had prepared him for, asserting that his training is essentially working in the opposite direction of Tsunade's, since he sees no reason in teaching him fine control of anything, having the opinion that Naruto will be just fine spamming techniques with high chakra cost, meaning during the month, he's got to prove himself genius enough to look both ways at once, or he'll be cut down before the exams. And of course, as the manic knucklehead punk he is, Naruto is more than happy to accept this challenge. Meanwhile, on the other side of the village near its outskirts, Baki and Kumoto oversee Gaara's training with his own teammates, these mostly consisting of mock manhunts to sate his bloodlust, forcing his teammates to do whatever they can to survive against him and escape, and thus, forcibly bringing them closer to his level in the process. It's brutal and barely humane enough to be called training, but in the end, Gaara is able to show enough restraint that he's aware he needs his teammates to compete and complete his goal, citing their worth is similar to his so-called siblings and try to justify it to himself. While Oboro is only unsettled by this, Karui can't help but find herself a bit intrigued by it, and so in their downtime, she does the best she can to squeeze the little she can out of Baki about Gaara. Both her and Kumoto recognizing this guy is a bit shady, while at the same time the former bigwig Cloud Jonin sneaks off more than once or twice during the month, with the Cloud Girl's only hope being that he's checking on Samui and Omoi, rather than getting himself into trouble that would dishonor the village once again. Finally, a month passes, and the fourth round begins, with fellow participants and spectators alike flocking to the stadium to witness the slate of major battles for the day, while at the same time, the event is also attended by the Raikage in conjunction with the Kazekage, meaning the event itself has more spectators spectators as well, as there is even a loud feed streaming back from the hidden cloud, the same way the last exams were filmed. Without much preamble, Team Uzumaki and Team Gaara take their positions on the field, as a proctor named Genma reminds them and the audience of the rules for engagement, such as how the battle will only end when all 3 members of a team are captured or incapacitated, with killing still paradoxically being frowned upon to the chagrin of Gaara, who Naruto can tell is particularly brimming with bloodlust today, much in contrast to the aura of confidence he's gained after nearly being killed with Granny Tsunade and Pervy Sage along with his team to break his limits, the Dead Last Demon no longer being the fighter he used to be. As Genma steps away and declares the start of the match, the two Jinchuriki give vastly different orders to their teammates, with Naruto cracking his knuckles and asking for his friends to back him up like the practice when the time comes, while Gaara warns his if they get in his way, he will grind them into dust. Upon which point, both boys launch a preemptive strike at one another. For Gaara, this takes the form of a sand tsunami, while for Naruto, something brand new he is all too happy to demonstrate, placing his right hand on the ground and lighting it with crimson chakra, as the Calamity Palm forces the ground itself to shudder and crack in crawling splinters, sturging a wave of kinetic force from the energy escaping the now decaying rock and stone as it rolls forward in a wave of pure chaos and destruction, thus embodying its creator as it clashes with the wave of sand, with the two opposing forces canceling one another out, as all that is left from the destructive force is dust and sand. Truthfully, Naruto is happy to see that his new walking Calamity Palm alone won't end this, as his body becomes very steadily cloaked in an imperceptible layer of Ninetales chakra, bolstering all his stats as he methodically goes after the other demon. While at the same time, Oboro and Kadoi see it safer to take out those Gaara isn't focused on, with the Kunoichi initially targeting the other girl, while Oboro remembers Lee's susceptibility to genjutsu, and so seeks to abuse it and gain another easy victory to show off his own skills. But this is where this team shows their unpredictability, as these choices are reversed, with Sakura releasing a transformation genjutsu on herself and Lee to reveal the two have been acting as one another, in order to preempt just such targeting their weak spots. And so Kadoi's kenjutsu and speed is countered by Lee, who not only has the taijutsu skills and speed to handle her unarmed, but also experience with Omo that grants him some familiarity with Cloud Village kenjutsu, while Oboro and Sakura can engage in a genjutsu bout, constantly trying to catch one another in their mediums and illusions to create an opening. However here, both sides find fairly equal pushback, as exposure to such an unstable Jinchuriki as Gaara has really pushed Kaori to want to live up to the example of her masters have set, and even help Gaara if she can. It was not like she likes him or anything. As such, over the months, she's learned to empower her body with lightning chakra temporarily, allowing her to unleash blindingly quick slashes that complement her lightning-enhanced blade. As such, Lee's speed is given a genuine challenge worth his time to start the round, while the same can be said for Oboro's own chakra control, and the cruelty with which he's learned to use different mediums, like picking up Sakura's blood medium trick, or even simply using the sound and feeling of shifting sand to induce illusion, since Gaara can make these three things happen amply. At the same time, having already sensed his similarity to Naruto, Gaara has already resolved to give in more to the insanity of Shukaku gnawing on his mind, in order to overcome it and prove his own existence. And so at first, he never despairs, even as Naruto's crawling blasts of destruction and rot beat back his unrelenting grinding and slashing of his sanded wind, while the larger Jinchuriki steadily makes his way forward, idly healing the cuts and scrapes he picks up from stray blasts, as the approach to close in on Gaara grows more and more dangerous for him, and yet undaunted and stoic, while in contrast, fear and doubt begin to grow in Gaara's heart, as he questions if he can continue to exist in the face of a monster that scares even him. Well, that's where we'll be leaving this part off for right now. That'll start Act 1 of Part 7. I know this is really a tease, and I do hate for that. My goal is to have the whole finals, or at least the meat and potatoes of them, take place within these 3 acts for Part 7. So I'll go ahead and warn you, we'll be starting Act 2 in median res, with it somewhat jarringly swapping over to Hinata and Sasuke's perspectives as they prepare for their own match. So it will leave you in the dark on the end of Team Uzumaki versus Team Gaara till at least the end of Act 2 itself, just so you're prepared for that. Even if it may feel kind of obvious, I still want there to be at least some mystery around what becomes of Team Uzumaki and Team Gaara, since if you haven't noticed, one of them is meant to be the true final boss of this arc for our true heroes, which will be whatever happens to Team Hyuga and Team Sasuke. So even that, I'm pretty sure you can probably guess the outcome. Also, let me know how I'm doing on these team battles so far. I've thankfully had the excuse of not having very cohesive teams to use for a lot of them at the points that I've had so far in the training exams here, and they've kind of ended up as more 1v1s in close proximity to each other than real team battles. But I think these next 2 acts will be where I get to have that remedy. So I want to know a lot of your cool thoughts, like little combo moves teams can come up with and stuff like that. If I see some really great ones, I'll try and make sure some of them get into some of the fight choreography. Also, let me know how you felt about Naruto's training and him finally getting to meet the Sannin, since I know that's something everyone's been very much looking forward to in this verse since I set up the idea of Naruto learning medical ninjutsu. As a consequence though, let me know what you thought about how the balance between Tsunade as a teacher and Jiraiya as a teacher was. It definitely feels, even to me as the author of this part, like Tsunade definitely stole the show from Jiraiya. I'm trying to balance these things out, but I'm also trying to have fun and tell a Naruto what if that I don't think will be commonly told, especially with this very common what if topic. Though all that said, I need to go ahead and get our shoutouts to our special channel supporters of the day done, and those are going to go to Bruce Boswick, Galamagulla, True Trey, Massive Oak Wood Tree, and Vegeta What Ifs. You will see the rest of these lovely supporters' names scrolling on the screen right now, and if you haven't heard yet, you can get all sorts of special perks by supporting the channel, like early access to videos, sneak peeks of upcoming content, and even some support exclusive series that won't be made public to the channel for at least a while from now. So please consider joining their ranks, because this is a great way to help me out, along with doing things like liking, subscribing, and commenting your thoughts. All that said, be sure to take care of yourselves and the world around you, and as always, go beyond plus ultra. And I'll see you guys next time.